Welcome back. This is the second half of our newspaper review on K24 TV. Glad you're joining us. It's all about the Uhuru Truce. How do you get it? How do you move forward from there? They have 2 years or so to salvage what's left of what they started together. Let's have a question of the day up. Is a handshake between Uhuru, Raila and Ruto the ultimate truce? Once again, is a handshake between Uhuru, Raila and Ruto the ultimate truce? You can send us your feedback. The WhatsApp number is right there at the bottom of the screen. You can also get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Let's see what you have on WhatsApp. That lady Mudivo has spoken my heart. Why is Kagwe instilling untold fear in us by reading numbers every day? Till when? Had he not been reading the numbers, the rate of infections could not have gone up like this. Let Kagwe stop the daily briefs and numbers and give us the how of handling the disease. Okay? Let's have another one up on screen. Hello K24, this is Gilbert, Nandi County. Handshake was a good thing at first because it helped stabilize this country for a short while, but little did we know that they had their own hidden agenda to block DP Ruto from ascending to State House. Okay, that's another one right there. We have one more message. We'll have that up on screen. Yeah, the handshake has just divided Kenyans. Ruto will just get the win since people feel he's being rejected. That's James from Muranga. It's what Ruto will get, the sympathy votes. Okay, we have one more. Let's have that up. Good morning, Jeff. BBI can't change the politics of bad manners in Kenya. Our political class have, over the years, taken advantage of poor Kenyans. Kenyans don't know their constitution, their rights, responsibilities, and obligations. So, politicians have agreed to fight for their position, but not for economic growth, reduction of wealth, or job or wealth creation. 8,300 people control 99.9% of wealth in Kenya. In rural areas, people earn 3,550 shillings, and in urban areas, around 5,600. 50% of Kenyans go without 1 or 2 meals, 45% without health. Kenya is suffering from greed in all our spheres of life. A lorry overturned and all good will be stolen rather than helping the affected. That's Abdullahi Alas from Mandera County. Thanks for that and those figures as well. Let's bring it back to studio even as we talk about this. We have Justus Maina on Skype from Bomet. It would be good to have him in on this one as well, because even as it stands right now, as of last week, we had sentiments, and this was from the DP's camp, and they said that they're really not interested in a handshake right now. All they want is respect for the DP back and his roles given back to him. Let him work for the rest of this term. That's really all they want. Is that the solution from where you stand, Justus? If he's given back his roles as principal assistant, then all will be well?
Jeff, first, I want to say I don't buy the politics of the handshake. The politics of a handshake are the politics of the failed states and the warlords. That is the playbook. Anything you hear about handshake, then it presupposes a failed state. So I want to believe that Kenya in the next 10, 15 years, 20 years, we will have moved fundamentally from these politics of a handshake, because handshakes symbolizes something a bit nasty. And if at the fulcrum, at the heart of our politics is handshake from 2002 to 2010, every post-election period, for this country to survive, then the handshake must happen. Then critically, there must be wrong with our country, and we need to cure that problem as opposed to curing it using the handshake. So that, because the handshake, Chef, says that this country is going to depend on the goodwill of two individuals. That this country is going to depend, the stability of this country is going to depend on the goodwill of the person who has won the election and who has lost the election. That the stability of this country is going to entirely depend on the magnanimity of the person who has won the election, and of course the person who has lost the election to again demand for his hand to be shaken for us to enjoy the peace in this country. So to me, it is not something that I would wish to. As a doctor, if I were a doctor, I would not prescribe that kind of medicine for the country. We need to go back to the basics. Why do we need a handshake every 5 years, every 10 years? So to me, the fact that a president and a deputy needs to shake hands for the stability, for us to enjoy peace, for us to enjoy progress, is in a nutshell a symptom of a malady that needs to be cured sooner than later. And I don't believe, because the people who engineered this breakdown between the president and the deputy are still up in the echelons of power. By the way, this is a mechanical. The difference between the president and the deputy was engineered by the technocrats in this country. It is not by this. It is not an accident. It was by design that post 2017 election, there will be the characters that all sway this country through intelligence system may have fed president with a lot of negative stories about the deputy, and that in the nutshell, because in governance, if you have sway over the intelligence system, generally you have sway over the president all over the world, be it first world countries, be it second world countries, be it third world countries. The moment you have a sway over the intelligence system that feeds the president with information, then definitely you are going to write the narrative. So the people who are controlling the intelligence system will not allow the truce between the president and the deputy. And ultimately, finally, you know, it is good for ODM when there is a fight between the president and the deputy. It is good for business for some people. Some people are reaping from this conflict. There are people who are now billionaires. There are people who are doing great business out of this conflict. There are people who are ferrying Kenyans from one end of the country to the other end of the country in the name of handshake. So, Jeff, it is not entirely bad for everybody when there is a conflict between the president and the deputy. There are people who are really harvesting. There are people who are enjoying this conflict, and they are going to fuel this conflict for as long as the president and the deputy are serving their term, the second term. So I don't think there is any possibility that there is going to be truce. Even if there were to be a handshake, that would not last a week. It would be symbolic, but before the end of the week again, the engineers of the conflict will still go back to the drawing board and engineer another conflict.
Joy, as you said, the clerics are trying to midwife this particular process in terms of having some sort of truth. You've also had some business people who are trying to get these two, to the table and fix whatever it is that went wrong. Are you optimistic on that? Do you think that these efforts will bear the necessary fruit that's needed moving forward?
I'm cautiously optimistic, but like Arnold, I am also pragmatic in seeing that where we have reached now, short of divine intervention, I don't see it happening. And the reason for that is also simple. One of the things that I think has been very concerning is the fact that in playing out the spat between the president and the deputy, what has been the result is this, what we're calling early campaigns. So we have seen people going into overdrive, moving on without the other person. With the kind of trajectory that the deputy president has gathered right now, he is on a crest, he's riding a high. To see him bringing it back down for the sake of a truce, I don't see that happening. Because you will remember when Honorable Raila Odinga entered into the handshake with the president, one of the things that happened is that people felt that he had betrayed their cause by agreeing to work with the president. Now he's had enough time maybe to sort of win back that support. But it cost him in terms of, we fought for you, we died for you, Chris Msando died for you, Baby Pendo died for you, we went on the streets for you, we went tear gas Mondays for you, and all it takes is one cup of tea in a Harambee house and you come out shaking hands. What is wrong? And he lost a lot of what we call street credibility. Mm-hmm. So many people felt it was a betrayal. And I think Honorable Ruto is in the same position right now, where he has come out as the fighter for the hustlers. He's come out as the champion for the munyonge, as it were. So for him to also get into a truce right now is not very wise in terms of, if I'm looking at the political machinations. They gave him time to get into real politicking. Now that he's gotten into real politicking without the shackles of work, he's riding a high. Then you say, okay, let's do a truce now so that the high can come down. Who knows if he's going to pick it up again before the elections. So for that reason, I don't think the deputy president would be as motivated. He might want to do it for the sake of finishing what Jubilee promised, because there's once I heard, I think it was in Githura, if I'm not wrong, where he said, I know Jubilee promised you things and we need to deliver on the same. So there's a part of him that is conscious that there is a job he needs to finish with Jubilee, but the other part of him has moved on and is already doing something else. So am I optimistic that there will be a truce? I don't think so, because There was a time when the deputy president was sort of chillaxed, for lack of a better word. But now he's gathered a momentum. He's doing something. He has styled himself in a certain way. And if he goes back to the table and sits down with the president and looks like he has reverted to factory settings, there is a certain credibility that is going to lose with the people who are supporting him right now. And so for that reason, I don't think he is motivated as much to come to a truce as maybe the president might be. What I do see within the realm of possibility is, for example, maybe calling the troops to order in parliament, for example, and telling them, look, as a government, we still have to deliver this. That, I think, is within the realm of possibility of saying, you know what, Jubilee as a government must deliver on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you know what, guys, when it comes to this, we have to play ball. But for the optics out here, that one, I think that train has left the station. I don't see that a restart of the bromance that we had with the matching ties and the high fives. I think it's over and done with.
Arnold, there's a tweet that we have from Alex Wanyandarwa. He's saying it's only Uhuru Kenyatta who I heard is trying to build a bridge from Central to Nyanza without passing through Rift Valley. He could be a genius, but according to my knowledge, it won't work. Let him bring Ruto 2 into the team. And it also brings an interesting question, because even in terms of this handshake, everybody said it was necessary to calm down the temperatures. Business was bad. The perception from the international community also was wanting. But how could it have been more inclusive so that it didn't do more damage than good after it was done?
You know, we all know that we really needed the handshake, at least for that particular moment, to work out, to bring us to a table where we were then able to negotiate and craft a new way forward as a country. But the road to hell is normally paved with good intentions. So, whereas we really needed the handshake, how the handshake has been administered has actually taken us back, or rather it's leading us back to exactly the same place where we do not want to be. So, a few things here. It's possible that a truce can happen. And in a country that is bereft of politics of ideas, politics of ideology, and politics of progress, we really have to be anti-something. So that when Raila has a way of working with Uhuru, then somehow people within Uhuru's camp or Raila's camp then have to find somebody else to, some scarecrow, some phantom to actually then direct their anger and all manner of campaigning. You know, it's like Maina said, there is an economy around that division. A very thriving economy. And the cartels in that economy are not going to actually give it up very easily. There are people who are getting money to do weekly press conferences. There are people who are getting money to do tweets. The social media campaigns you do here are not really actually sustained by just hope and anything else. There are people who all of a sudden have got finances, the doors to their livelihoods have actually been opened up, and they will not give it up willingly. But pragmatism must actually carry the day, for the simple reason that politics is not a love affair. You don't have to love somebody to work with them in politics. It's about the shared dreams, desires, and goals that you pursue. So, out of pragmatism, the president can actually demonstrate two things. Both the president, the former prime minister, and Deputy President William Ruto just need to demonstrate leadership and maturity. It's not a matter of them like falling over each other. They don't want to marry each other. You remember the deputy president saying that he's married to Ruto. You know, when you talk about to Rachel, I mean. So it's not like, and like I said earlier on, politics is not a love affair. I don't have to love you to work with you. It's about the goals we pursue, and if it works for us, if you want to call them interests, then so be it. But at this particular point, it's going to be a little bit difficult, especially when we have to look at it from who wins and who loses. Right. It is a war that should better not have been started. Because in the public opinion, this war, the president will not win. Whatever way you look at it, he will not win. The deputy president has realized that he's been disrespected, and now he gets to a point where he feels he can fight back. As in, I heard Joy say last time, kufa dereva, kufa makanga, na kufa biria. As in, everything for him, he's actually ready for it, and he's daring them. But they've been pushing him to that particular point. So if the handshake was actually the genesis of this division, then you realize that there should be another handshake probably. But what will that handshake lead us unto? I need to point out this, that in politics, consensus is boring. The politics of consensus normally, naturally. That's why you hear Justus saying that he is not happy about consensus and everything else. That is what nature is. Nature is not a monotonous expanse or space. Good music that we love to listen to. And by the way, I personally think that music is the first religion. Football comes number 3, and then Catholic become, as in music, football, and then Christianity, of course. In Christianity, if you have to divide, then Catholic comes number 3, and then the rest of us, as in forms of, if you are going to rate what comes ahead. So music, from my example, would be that all of us come with different voices. Then we come up with harmony. Harmony is different voices coming together and still making sense. And it's beautiful, the symphony that comes with that. So we expect the difference of opinions from NASA, the former NASA, or ODM now, different voices from the Deputy President, and now the different side of the President, and all of us have a harmony or a symphony that is national progress. That calls for all of us to deliberately come up and realize that this competition is not a solo where everybody has to show up as an individual, but it's a choir. Now, if we realize that, then all those forces will actually come up and demonstrate leadership, ignoring their foot soldiers. Because I have seen the Deputy President's soldiers say that if he actually accepts a handshake with the Deputy President, they will abandon him. Those are threats. I have also seen the same from the President's side. The only person who seems to have his foot soldiers together, and you are expelled if you try to actually speak differently, is the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who somehow has got a good control over his foot soldiers. His foot soldiers.
Let me get Justus in on this one, even as we're getting to the tail end of this conversation, because it seems like the writing's on the wall as far as BBI is concerned and the referendum in place. Already the President has met, leadership from both houses, committees, and the House itself on how they'll shepherd this process moving forward. Is this the tipping point for this particular relationship between the President and the DP? Because we've heard the Deputy President speak openly about his reservations on what could be in the draft of the BBI. Do you feel this is where the tipping point could be once the second draft is out?
Well, I don't think. Perhaps the Deputy President is also hyping so that maybe gets the attention of the President and his partner, the handshake partner, Raila Odinga. I believe that in unveiling the BBI, the President's team could be able to reach out to the Deputy President in due course, because I believe that if the President is genuine in terms of wanting to bring together the team behind the team behind the BBI, then the best he needs to do is to ensure that the Deputy President and his brigade are also singing from the same hymn book, the hymn book of the BBI, because it would be very divisive and almost offensive if we were to go 2 years before elections or 22 months before the election, we were to go to a very divisive campaigns. And the country would really be drawn into a cut race that is not necessary. So I want to believe honestly that though you may hear the rhetoric from both the President's team, the Raila's team, and the Uhuru's team, I believe behind the scene there is a move to bring the three principles, for lack of a better word, together so that they rally behind the BBI once the BBI is unveiled, and hopefully maybe the Ruto's team will buy the contents. And I think the greatest challenge is that nobody seems to understand the contents of the BBI. In fact, I've seen some tweets, some people suggesting that not even Raila himself understand the contents of the BBI, though he's under illusions that the BBI will have captured immensely his aspirations. And therefore, perhaps Raila, because of the partnership and the handshake, is almost is morally obligated to support the BBI. But I doubt whether he himself understands particularly the contents of the BBI. So I believe that Ruto ultimately, in my opinion, may come around and begin to lend his hand to BBI if the President was magnanimous enough to invite him to State House, have a cup of tea with him, because this country, I believe, Chevy, is bigger than the three principles. Long after we are not in the scene, and even the three principles are not in the scene, we will still have the project called Kenya. So I believe the president must be able to invite the three of to have a roundtable, the president, the deputy president, and Raila, have a chat, give and take. If there are contents of the BBI that maybe the deputy president may not be comfortable, the president must use the power of persuasion and not the power of intimidation like he's prone to use of late. Perhaps under the prompting of his team, I believe the president must now begin to reach out to his deputy, must persuade his deputy, must convince his deputy, because the deputy is not just a deputy. The deputy of this country controls a large sway of political constituency of this country. So some people may want to project deputy president as a mere deputy, but in terms of political sense, the deputy president controls a large chunk of this country. And therefore, as much as you want to look at him as merely the principal assistant of the president, you must also have in mind that he's not merely the principal assistant, but he is also a stakeholder in the Jubilee Brigade and control a sizable vote and constituency, both inside the Senate, inside the National Assembly, and outside of both parliaments.
Okay. Let me bring it as we even bring this to a close on this particular issue, because here we are right now. We've heard various statements from three of these leaders. As you said, he even spoke about Uhuru Odinga being chair of IEBC moving forward. So we can see really the gloves most likely are off on this. How do you go from here? What happens next?
I think with what we have seen so far, the next few weeks we are going to be dominated with a lot of talk on BBI. The report might be tabled maybe sometime this week if all the indications are anything to go by. Parliament has been given 60 days to action what they can from the BBI. So I expect a lot of conversation now will be taken over by what is going on in the BBI. The next few weeks also, I think, will be seen with more shenanigans. Like, for example, we are seeing in Kisii tomorrow, there's going to be a Mashujazi celebration. I heard somewhere that a national holiday is going to be a card-only event. So we're going to see more of these shenanigans happening during the next few days with people trying to sort of find their level. But what I also expect we will not see is a truce anytime soon between the president and the deputy. For one major reason, Honorable Raila Odinga. I think the fallout between the deputy president and the former prime minister is such that as long as one is in the room, the other one cannot be there. Mm-hmm. And so for the foreseeable future anyway, unless the president has a way of finding how he can separate these two to work with them in separate chambers, I don't see a truce as is being touted now happening. But what, again, I do expect to see in the next few days is probably Parliament being a lot more active. And so we will even have a better understanding of the power play. Like Arnold said earlier, we saw it playing out in the Senate with the revenue allocation debate. Now Parliament, we are going to see how the muscles are going to be flexed, and it will give us also a better idea of where the National Assembly members are going to fall. But one conversation that I know we will not be hearing a lot of, but I wish we would, is the one about the gender role. Whether Parliament will continue working or not working, the matter is in the courts, the matter is before the president, the matter is before the parliamentarians themselves, whether they have a bill or not. I wish that conversation would also come to the fore. Tell us, do they have a bill on how to balance the numbers in the National Assembly? We wait and see. Arnold,
20 seconds very quickly as we bring this to a close. I know every time I see you writing there, I get slightly worried as we close, because there's a lot on your paper. So pick the top one there and let's go with that. How do we close?
Of course, money has been poured to ensure that I don't give my serious submission as I close the show. First of all, I think it's important to point out that Kenya is a great republic, a very great republic, even though, number one, in the last 6 months, or in the last quarter of the economy grew by negative 5.7%. Unemployment is massive. We are talking about having lost all jobs that the economy created since 2018. The succession challenges, the challenges, all that we are facing, this division around here and those things, for me, I want to look at them as puberty problems for a democratic teenager. Because we are an aspiring democracy. We are moving to places and we want to get to a place where we are a full democracy. So there are challenges, yes. So it is at this point that I know that maturity and reason will actually prevail for the deputy president, the president, and the former prime minister to start speaking to each other and ensure that Kenya is actually saved out of their small things. By the way, none of them is bigger than this country. I can tell you the truth, that we can do without the president today. He can go home and we will still be there. The deputy president can actually go to Sugoi and we close him there and Kenya will still continue. Even Raila. So the three gentlemen should first of all forget that we owe them anything. In any case, it is them who owe us because we gave them stewardship. Happy Mashujaa Day, Kenyans, and just remember that Kenya is a great republic.
Okay. On that particular note, we'll wind up this particular conversation, of course, Mashujaa Day being tomorrow. And even as you say that, we also have a question of the day that we posed to you right here on the show. And it was really, how do you move forward? Is a solution a three-way handshake between Uhuru, Raila and Ruto as the ultimate truce moving forward? That's a question we posed to you at the beginning of the show. We're taking some of your feedback even as we close. Let's have that up. The handshake of the three could bring down the rhetoric, but will not be good for the country. Does it mean the country is at the mercy of the three? We need to know what was discussed by our president and Raila before any other person is included. This could bring more problems. That's Muturi from Kiambu. Okay, that's our last WhatsApp message right there. Of course, brings a close to the show this particular morning. Of course, more coming up right here. Keep the feedback coming in. We discuss that online. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Many thanks to Justus Maina, who was on the show from Bomet. In studio, Arnold Maleba, Joy Mdivo. Thank you so much for making time this morning. Have a happy Mashujaa Day.
Same to you.
Fantastic
Enjoy
stuff.
your day.
Asante sana. You take a short break. We are back on the other side as we get interactive. This is K24 This Morning.